We're saying, my brothers. So basically, I've now got my glasses on to appear more credible in these videos. And what we're talking about today is the US congressional testimony that the three UFO whistleblowers had just been involved in. David Grush, Ryan Graves, and was it David Fravor? Slips my mind right now. But just to get down to the brass tacks of what's going on. So what actually happened? What were the big bombshell moments in the public hearing? Well, the big one was probably that they said that there was non-human biologics recovered in these crashed craft, or craft that they'd found, whether they'd taken them down using super advanced US military laser beams that we don't know about, or these aliens somehow crashed, which obviously many skeptics would say, if they're super advanced, how did they crash? But yeah, we don't know, do we? It's all just assumptions. So yeah, let's take our assumptions out of the way for a moment, the metaphysical assumptions, the scientific assumptions, that many people may have, and try to treat the rabbit hole of UFOs with as much sort of factuality as we can without assuming it's a psyop, it's a distraction, it's interdimensional beings. Let's just say that we don't actually know. There's these unidentified aerial phenomena out there that we don't know about. We have no idea how they do it. It's obviously not the Russians or the Chinese being able to develop it, because it's completely beyond any technological understanding that we currently have. I think we can all agree on that, no matter what stance you take on it. So what does this mean for the future of ufology now that this has come out, now that this has been said? It's probably the biggest landmark moment in the community since I'd say 2017, when obviously the Pentagon videos came out of the Tic Tac and the other super weird UAP footage that was there, obviously flying at unbelievable speeds, being able to it looks like they manipulate time and space in some way. Whether they do, I'm not saying they do at all, but that's definitely what it looks like in a sense. There's no propulsion going on. It seems like this can sort of bend gravity, or bend time and space and move about sort of on its own axis without any form of like fuel or, again, propulsion that we know about. It's really just beyond our understanding. Something that definitely you can see how the US military and, say, the Russians and any other sort of massive military in the world will be interested in. I bet the UK and Australia are also involved with it. So I'd say the most significant thing about this, regardless, I mean, many of us who are into UFOs already knew about the things that David Grush was purporting. Obviously, he's never actually seen a UFO, but this is a guy who's like top level security, under oath, was told to debrief the president about all this stuff, higher ups and everything. To me, it seems very unlikely that this guy would be lying or has some form of agenda. Don't think he's involved in some psyop at all, really. But you can't really convince anyone nowadays that anything isn't a psyop. Everyone just likes to assume that, it's just them pulling the strings or distracting us, and it's like, yeah, whatever. It might be true. I'm not saying it isn't, but if we just look at things sort of on a basic level, to me, it does seem like the US government, or at least a big part of it, has been kept in the dark about what's actually going on with these UAPs. Like, how much do we know about them? I think, personally, the US government, some sectors of it, don't actually understand what's going on. And I think very key people within the government and the military complex are allowed to know about this, only very key players, because let's say, hypothetically, that these are aliens, non-human intelligences, extraterrestrial, interdimensional, whatever. It's clear that they have a serious technological superiority to us that is a national threat. And you can see why, say, Congress would want to hear about this, especially now that we're in an age where our science and technology is rapidly advancing to the point where we might be able to start getting a grasp on what they're actually doing, how these UAPs can manipulate time and space. Whether they do manipulate time and space, I don't know. That's obviously, if anyone is into UFOs and has watched the videos, seen all the podcasts, and just done the research the best they can to keep us sort of grounded as you can when it comes to this very deep rabbit hole, where you've sort of got to read between the lines and take yourself think outside the box, but without getting lost. It does appear that these craft, of the many that the types there are, the orbs, the triangles, all the different types, they seem to be able to manipulate gravity or time and space in a way that we currently don't think is possible with physics. So of course, the US government and the military would be interested in this, but it seems that there's a divide between the people that are more aware and the people who know that it's a thing, know that there are UAPs, but don't know the sort of ins and outs of what's going on. So it feels like, yeah, there is a division between the military, the key members in the military, and sort of like the US government that wants to know, is this a threat to national security? Which obviously they don't know for certain. Obviously many people will be like, oh, these aliens are benign or benevolent. I personally believe that if these are aliens manning these UAPs, or controlling these UAPs with the mind, with whatever's going on, I feel like there's so many variations to these UFOs that there could be any sorts of like species or beings or whatever controlling them or manning them. It probably comes in a spectrum, but it does appear that we don't understand their agenda behind it, and it is a cause for concern. So it makes sense that at this point in human history right now, when our technologies are super advanced, we're sort of very slowly getting a grasp on, or trying to get a grasp on, what's going on. Ryan Graves was talking about how there's people been injured trying to reverse engineer these technologies. And I think what this means for the UFO community now is that we're getting to a point where maybe public disclosure of all the information that, say, the higher ups, like, say, Lou Elizondo, all these people have had experience and that, who seem to know a lot more than we as just researchers and people who are into this sort of stuff know. Obviously, of course, they're literally involved with the stuff behind the scenes. It feels like, even though we're probably very far away from like sort of public disclosure of that stuff, if it ever happens, because I don't know, let's say, again, hypothetically, that these are aliens and they have been visiting us for thousands of years, and all the little dots and connections, the cave paintings, the Vatican paintings that depict UFOs, the Roman sort of scriptures that talk about these orbs that were flying over battle with them, that have appeared for millennia and possibly have been with us on this planet for longer than we have, whether they live on this planet or they come from another planet or another dimension, whatever. It does seem to, let's say hypothetically that is the case, that they've been about forever. This just changes everything, doesn't it? And doesn't it? And it almost feels like you've got to have some form of empathy for the people who are very much involved in, say, like with ATIP and doing the aerial space phenomena research that goes on, and just the program, whatever you want to call it, that studies these things and produces the Men in Black type scenarios and that maybe you can understand why they would want to keep this information away from the human race. Because, I mean, look at the amount of staunch conservative religious fundamentalists there are. This would completely shatter their paradigm and possibly send them insane. Obviously, maybe it wouldn't. Maybe it would be an enlightening moment for humanity if we found out that we're not alone, for real. But personally, I think it probably would send people a bit skits, because this just changes absolutely everything. And if they woke up and read the news one day, it was all over the news like, aliens confirmed, we literally have them, we've got bodies, we've got this technology, they've been here forever. It would just change everything for us, and maybe we're not ready as a species to understand that, especially with the human hubris that we suffer with, of like, oh, this is completely impossible. We oftentimes like to reduce things down to stuff we can understand from a scientific angle that we currently occupy, because obviously the scientific angle will be completely different in 1,000 years. And that's sort of my argument for this, for the UAPs and advanced conscious beings, is that we just currently are occupying this particular moment in the history of humanity. I just don't think it's ridiculous to think that in thousands of years, say if we don't blow each other up, as many people like to say we might do, but let's say we don't, let's say we all come together and like, I bring you love, sort of shit. Maybe we could develop a technology that manipulates time and space in a way we currently think is impossible now. I mean, say 500 years ago, people had no idea we'd have these fucking mini computers in our pockets that would be able to access every single piece of information currently documented online. They wouldn't even know what online or internet means. Like, it was completely unfathomable for them. Much like how we can't fathom how this phenomena can manipulate reality in a way beyond our understanding of physics. It just seems I think the future of ufology now is, again, less skepticism and more open-mindedness. Obviously, you can be an open-minded skeptic, but my personal opinion on this is that the skepticism surrounding UFOs and even stuff like psychedelics, which have a profound effect on consciousness and can produce all these like mystical phenomena that we don't understand from a sort of chemical level in our brain. It definitely feels, for many of us who've had these ego death mystical experiences, that it goes beyond sort of material reality. Obviously, whatever your opinion is, I respect, but that's just personally my perspective, is that it goes beyond physical reality. And many people will probably stop the video now and be like, this guy's woo-woo and he's just completely lost the plot, and that's why he thinks UFOs are real or whatever. So alright, see you later to those people. Let's just get down to the serious business. So my very radical opinion is that, I feel like just naturally through the progress of just humanity and society and our understanding and consciousness as a species, as we become more sort of interconnected, the extreme skepticism will sort of start to chip away, and it will now be easier for, say, people to comprehend what's going on. Maybe people will be like, oh, maybe there is a lot of truth to this. Maybe I have been very dismissive of people who are into UFOs, because a lot of people have just been called whack jobs, literally. I mean, if you're really into this, if you really care about this stuff, whether you're a skeptic that thinks, oh, this is impossible, I don't think aliens exist, and you're like some super Fermi paradox obsessive person, you should still be interested, and you should still open yourself up to the first-hand accounts that people have of these things. I mean, I was a skeptic for a very long time. When I was younger, I was one of them I was a staunch, atheistic, materialistic, scientifically minded person. And then one day, I just really started to question my own questioning of reality and consciousness and science. I was like, how much do I actually know? And I realized I don't know anything. Why don't I actually go and listen to the people that are talking about this rather than making an assumption? Because I think a lot of people, they won't want to admit it either, they make assumptions of these things without actually knowing what the crack is, really, what actually is going on with these people who purport to have seen stuff. And that's why I'd say stuff like Red Panda Koala and Kurt Jaimungal's theories of everything are especially valuable in the UFO community, because it really does seem like the most grounded approach to this stuff. It's not like Ancient Aliens or all the other whack job stuff, the Hollywood level sci-fi understanding of aliens. When you listen to these podcasts that Kurt Jaimungal has amazingly put together, because I really respect him in that he doesn't seem to have any bias at all surrounding this stuff. He's very, very open-minded. Obviously, he himself has described himself as like skeptical of this stuff, but again, oftentimes when you expose yourself to sort of the brass tacks, what these people are actually saying, and you can sort of intuit their energy, intuit their, oh God, I just used the word energy, I've lost everybody now. If you can sort of intuit these people's behaviour, like when you watch these interviews of like Bob Lazar, Lou Elizondo especially, I think this guy, it needs to be studied by everybody who is a skeptic of UFOs, and even people who are into UFOs but don't know much about what's going on in sort of like the high level security stuff. Watch these videos where he is talking, and whether people think I'm just too empathetic or too open, when I'm analysing this guy's behaviour, this does not seem like a guy who wants to bullshit people or string them along or rope them into this disinformation campaign to distract us from all the messed up shit the US government obviously is doing, but it feels like his agenda is not suited to that. His agenda seems to be, God damn, the camera just shut down because it's getting too hot. So I'll try and make this quick, because I don't think she can handle much anymore. It must be imploding the fucking circuit boards, me talking about all this mad stuff. So what I will leave it on is my big rebuttal to are aliens malevolent? It seems more likely like they would be to some people. But personally, I don't think they are malevolent, because if they have been visiting for thousands of years, like a lot of the sort of highly credible people who purport this stuff in the UFO community, obviously not saying everything they say is true, but let's say hypothetically they have been visiting for thousands of years, which it does seem like, personally to me, they have. I feel like they probably would have destroyed us already if they can manipulate time and space in a way that their craft can literally ping in and out of sort of reality and fly off at speeds that we can't even comprehend. feel like they probably would have the capability to destroy us if they really wanted to. So I think more or less it's like how we observe ants. I say this, or anything really, any life on this planet, just out of the sheer curiosity of life itself and our love of examining reality and the potential for life. I feel like if I was some super advanced alien being that could manipulate time and space for me to bounce about anywhere in the universe, I definitely would come to Earth and just sort of dart about having a look at stuff. Obviously then the next rebuttal is, if they're so advanced, how do they crash? Personally, I don't think they do crash. I feel like we take them down. I think the fact that we can make a nuclear bomb, which is public knowledge that we can do so, and make these super advanced weapons, probably means that we do have weapons. The Russians, Chinese, the US probably has weapons that are far beyond our understanding in the general public. Possibly we have some sort of like super laser beam that can take down one of these UFOs, and if it's to be believed that there are thousands of them flying about at any one time, taking down one or two over the past like 60 years doesn't seem improbable. And the fact that leaves the fact that there's like 99% of the other UFOs flying about that we're not able to take down. So taking down one and being for the purpose of like national security, wanting to understand the technology, and just surely for the fact that during the time when all the UFO stuff was massive, saying that the end of World War II and the Cold War, I mean, you can sort of empathise with the military wanting to take down these things. If we don't understand what they are, the only way to understand them is sort of take one down and see what's going on inside and do our best to reverse engineer them. Which Ryan Graves says that many people have been injured doing so, and let me tell you, this high up security level guy whose job it is to sort of debrief the president on stuff like this, and was saying this stuff under oath, don't personally think he's lying just from that standpoint. And also the fact that when I intuit his behaviour watching that congressional testimony, it doesn't seem like he has an agenda, a psyop agenda, or some disinformation campaign to distract us. Personally believe he's telling the truth. Whether I'm crazy or not, I don't know. Probably am. Definitely am crazy in some sense, but I just love talking about this stuff, and whether it's true or not, it's great to just speculate about. Yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this, and if you'd like me to talk more about the UFO phenomenon casually in the Shed Talk format, then let me know, and till then, keep your thinking caps on and keep your eyes centered to the stars, because I think they're out there, to be honest.